Welcome back to Les Schwab Tire Center's Outdoor GPS, presented by Fisherman's Marine and Outdoor.
Batteries, everyone. It's live television. What can you do? Just move on and keep on going. Thousands of shows, literally. That has never happened. Okay, we've got Nick Popov from Peel to Reel Guide Service. Nick, before my IFP died, I wanted to ask your plan between now and then, because obviously it's very extensive for you. With clients, you got a dozen rods in the boat, but let's neck it down. Let's talk about dudes just like myself or others that are out watching that are trying to get all their gear ready before this winter steelhead season is in full swing. What do you pay attention to before that season gets up and running?
Yeah, most of mine is just tackle prep. I think a big thing that, that makes us guides successful is being prepared. We have everything we need going into that season and going into that day. It's if you break a setup off and you got to take 5 minutes to retie, that's 5 minutes you're out of the water. And so, we do a lot of, I don't have a ton of stuff with me because I'm not down at Dave's, but this is probably my most important thing I do all season is tie leaders. So, and then these little foam rolls are awesome. We just score them and then we just run our lines through them. And then on the end, I just mark, what pound test. And these things are lifesavers. So a lot of tackle prep. I'm doing this. I'm getting all my beads and all my new line on all my reels and rods. And, there's just a lot of prep that goes into it, coming into the season.
Yeah, and really, I think you kind of nicked it right down to it, didn't you? I mean, there's no messing around. When he's talking about leaders, and it doesn't matter if you're fishing beads, if you're going to be fishing eggs, they're all different. You got to have things set up to where you can be efficient and keep your gear in the water. The longer your gear's in the water, the more opportunity you have to get bit. It's pretty simple. What about rods, reels, combos, stuff like that? Because I know you're not putting $1,000 setups in your client's hands, but you're still making sure that all the gear and everything's ready to go there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I always tell people in our videos that we do and stuff, it's like any rod will work. You don't have to have $1,000 rod. You can fish, any rod will work. I typically run a 10'6" rod. Actually, this last year I went down to some 9'9" rods, and I really like those going a little bit shorter. It's a little easier for the clients to manage, but I do like the longer length. It's real important to be able to pick that line up and mend it. But, any rod will work. It just has to be the right weight of rod. And I typically run like an 8 to 17 pound rod for steelhead. I run a little bit heavier because we do run some bigger leads and stuff and when we're bobber dogging and stuff down on the coast.
What about bait? Now, I know that yesterday we had Jason Hamley from Procure, and we talked about eggs. In that conversation, I had mentioned, that there's a lot of us that have kind of gotten away from eggs. I know that's not you. But what about bait? What do you like to do to make sure that you've got the right eggs, the right different baits, the right setups that you want to use going through that season prior to the season getting started?
Yeah, so I start curing eggs right now. So at the end of my king season, I start curing my bait for my steelhead season. So, and it's over the years of fishing for steelhead, I used to do all these different colored eggs and red eggs and orange eggs. And I've just become a super natural. I do everything natural. Actually, Shane Magnuson was one that kind of told me, that a natural egg is the best egg, so it's like, I've been doing that for years now, and I just literally I want it to look as close to that natural color as I can get with my eggs, but I do a lot of egg fishing, and it's kind of weird, with these beads, the evolution of beads. There are some days that the beads are going to outfish your bait. I mean, it's just no question. And then there's also those days where a little bit of bait is going to go a long ways on some tough days. So you got to kind of have everything.
I love the fact that you mentioned the natural looking egg. That is not the easiest thing to do these days because most of the commercial products that are out there are colored up to some degree, if it's orange, pink, whatever the heck it is, red. Is there a way that you like to, you don't have to be too specific, everybody keeps it closer to chest to everyone for a reason, but do you do anything different to get that natural looking egg? Do you have a cure that you like to use, or do you do it on your own?
No, I do my own cure. I do my own cure, and I do add things in it that, I'm not going to say it makes a difference all the time, but there are some things. But I do a borax-based cure, and I just add a little bit of orange to my to my borax, and I'm basically just adding the orange to enhance the orange color of the egg, just a little. You know, I use barely any color at all, and I use a borax-based cure. And I try, like I said, I try to. My eggs will actually, people will look at them and be like, those don't look very good. They almost look like, you know, a brownish color. It's weird, but the way they fish, they tend to work pretty good.
Yeah, I've seen some of the photos during your winter steelhead season. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Well, okay, that was very interesting because one of the things we talked about yesterday, you know, was again colors, natural. I love the perspective that you have on that. Everyone's got a different take on it. He's got a lot of bait in the water, so there's a reason why he's doing that. Now, of course, you mentioned eggs, beads, of course, but there's other options that are out there. Do you spend a lot of time with fishing bobber and jig with your clients or on your own?
Yeah, so I'll actually, so. You know, last year was like a weird one-off season where the worm, I usually have two guys running, you know, bobbers and beads, and then I'll have one guy running like a bobber and worm or a bobber and jig. For whatever reason last year, though, I didn't catch a lot of fish on worms. Huh. And the year before, I bet you I caught 50% of my fish on worms. And I don't know if it was just like what they fed on in the ocean or, you know, what the actual, you know, reasoning was behind it. But yes, I typically have one guy fishing a bobber and jig or a bobber and worm, you know, alongside the guys that are bobber dogging and stuff. I just put him, typically I'll put him behind, in front of my bobber dogging guys. So he's the first one through, because his bobber is going to move a little bit faster than those bobber doggers.
You know what? That's a great reminder because I think I overlook a lot about fishing a worm. Pink worm is what he's referring to, everyone. I'm actually going to throw out there one of my things last year that helped me out was just old school night crawlers, man. Not to overthink things, just below a bead. It was like a little secret little thingy out there.
I think we all caught our first steelhead on that. You know,
maybe my last one last year was on one too, by the way. No, but we overlooked that. It's certainly a bait, but I find it interesting. Listen, everyone, he catches a lot of steelhead when he's out with clients, but one year doing really well with pink worm, then the next year not doing well. That's a very interesting perspective. Being a regular fisherman, we don't get to really see those kind of numbers. Okay, that's interesting by itself. Any last advice? I know that there's a lot of folks that are out there, and we're going to talk a lot about winter steelhead season going forward, everyone, but it's very rare that I get Mr. Popov, okay? So any advice for the folks that are out there at home that you'd say, pay attention to this, make sure this is good to go before you start getting serious about this upcoming winter steelhead season? Any advice?
You know, I just say preparation is the biggest thing. You know, make sure you're prepared to go to the water with more than one option to show these fish. You know, there's many, many days where I go with the intent to fish one thing, and at the end of the day, I figure something out, and I'm catching them on something I never thought that it would, you know, that I would be using. So, or that day. So it's just being prepared and you know, don't start too early too. You know, some of these guys will start in November because they're stuck back in that, you know, our older era of when we used to catch our steelhead. Sure. And they burn themselves out by the time they get to January, you know. So, you know, it's fun to get out on the water, but if you want to put big numbers up, you got to kind of wait until that January, February.
Another great piece of advice, because I find myself doing that during spring Chinook season, or I start in March for crying out loud. By the time it gets good, I'm like, I'm done. Get me out of here.
Yeah, you fish 21 days for one fish, and you could have started the next day of it and caught one fish.
Yeah, welcome to my world, man. A lot of burnt bait for no. I laugh at myself. Nick, any room for people to fish with you this year, or are you booked up already?
Yeah, I'm booked up, but you know, we do have another kid that works with Dave and I. So if you guys want to get out, we'd love to have you. You can look us up and come on down, and we'll get you in a boat and catch you some steelhead. We got some amazing dudes that work for us, and down, you know, Dave's got Nick now and Sam, and yeah, it'll be great.
If you get that opportunity, everyone, I would highly recommend it. If you get that chance, it's usually a good opportunity for numbers with these guys when you get a chance to go fishing with them. And hey, look at the sweatshirt he's wearing too, the Catch Zone. Don't overlook the app that him and Dave have put together. It is becoming extremely popular for a reason. And it's actually helping out a lot of people catch fish, man. We've had them call and communicate with us to let us know that it has helped them. So it is certainly something to keep in mind, everyone.
And that's another great tool.
Yes, absolutely.
Right there.
Stay on the rivers. You'll know what river system you like and how it's going to be when you get out there. Nick, as always, man, thanks for slowing yourself down for the day. Good luck. Find yourself a good Christmas tree, okay?
Right on, buddy. Thank you, Owen. Good to see you guys.
Take care, man. It's good to see you again. Finally, man. Finally.
I know.
All right, we're going to cut to
more often.
Thanks, partner. We're going to cut to a break. When we come back, I'm saving a little time for this last segment. I've got 2 phone calls holding, and I'm going to try to get both of them in before we wrap it up this morning. We'll be back in just a minute.